This is week 1 of the fall quarter, and Staff Council is doing a lovely session on health and wellness to help ease us into this part of the quarter.
Sure.
And take it away, Michelle.
Okay, great. And hello online. I'll be walking around. I'm not going to be sitting here, so my back's not going to be to our online person the whole time. So my name is Michelle. I am in the Art Therapy and Counseling Department here at Drexel University. I've actually been teaching here. This is my 20th year. Yay me, including all the adjunct work. Yeah, thank you for the praise. One of the things I'm really interested in as an artist and as an art therapist, and now as a doctoral student, is the role of self-compassion. You know, we here, even with the health and wellness events that we're trying to do to help students, staff, and faculty, we're always hearing about self-care, self-care, self-care. What exactly is self-care? Is it taking a bubble bath? Is it giving myself 5 minutes in the morning to make a coffee before I leave? It's so much more than that. We need to think about it in terms of self-compassion, which is not necessarily what we do, but it's embodying a way. And one of the ways that we can do that is to practice mindful techniques. And sometimes people think about mindfulness is sitting and meditating. It can be that. It can also be as informal as paying attention to your breath and paying attention to the present moment while you're washing dishes, while you're doing yoga, with goats or without, your choice, right? While you're walking your dog. One of the things that I found in being an artist and specifically a painter is I had been doing this my whole life without even realizing it. That's how simple this can be. Is just taking a moment, whether it's a minute, whether it's 5, whether it's 20, to just sit and be mindful of the present moment right now without any kind of judgment. How many people should on themselves on a daily basis? I should have done this, I should have done that. Even today, I should have been more prepared. I didn't know the room was going to look like this, even though I had been in here 500 times. So then we stop ourselves and we're like, oh, look at what I'm doing, right? Sometimes our inner critic grabs a hold of the megaphone and it's so loud, it distracts us from being able to focus on now, even being able to focus on what we're really feeling and sensing. It disconnects us, not just from the people around us in our lives, but from ourselves. So I just wanted to introduce to you another way of being mindful, because there's not a right or a wrong. It just an is. So we're going to do a little bit of breath work to bring ourselves into the room, not from the meeting you just ran from, or new college building, Scott Horowitz, getting off your phone at this moment, Scott Horowitz. Not that I'm calling anybody out. But I think it's important for us to give ourselves that quick moment of transition time. And when we engage in the art materials, we're not painting something, we're playing with the materials. We're going to spill water. That's why there's napkins everywhere. And I have a whole thing of paper towels. Do not worry about this table. It will not get ruined, I promise, and we'll clean up at the end. We're going to spill. We're going to notice and allow. So I want to invite you. Hi, come on in. I want to invite you, when you're playing with the materials today, is to simply notice and allow. And if you start getting into the stinking thinking, of, oh, I did this wrong, or oh, this looks weird. Just notice it. Don't judge it and allow it. Okay? So let's get comfortable in our chairs, as comfortable as we can be, our feet flat on the floor. Same thing for people at home. Now you can close your eyes if it feels comfortable to do so. If not, just cast your gaze downward towards your left. You can place your hands in a comfortable position. They could be palms down in your lap. And let's just get quiet for a minute. Notice your breath. Breathing in, you're breathing in. Breathing out, you're breathing out. At a pace that feels comfortable for you. Notice the support of the chair, how it feels against your lower back, underneath your legs. Supported and held. Notice your feet on the floor, making contact with the ground. Notice that the room isn't completely silent. Sound of the machine humming, sound of my breath, the sound of your breath. Breathing in. Notice the temperature of the air as it enters your nose. How it may tickle your upper lip on its way out. Allow yourself to relax into the chair, to its support. As you continue to breathe. Allow yourself to be here, now. And thank yourself. You took time out of your busy day to be here now, to give yourself this gift. Without expectation, but with intention to notice and allow. Take 3 more breaths at your own pace. After the 3rd breath, open your eyes. Gaze up. Thank you for being here today. We're going to play. You're allowed to have fun when you're engaging in mindfulness. You're allowed to talk. You don't have to sit in silence when playing with the materials and seeing what happens, noticing and allowing. I do ask that if you're talking, to keep it in present moment. Don't talk about people who aren't in this room with us sharing our time. Don't talk about what you did before coming here or what you're going to do after. Really make an intention to focus on what you're doing, what you're feeling, and not to judge it. This isn't a good or bad thing. This is just an experience. Okay? We're going to start with the materials that hopefully are familiar to people. Everything is water-based. I'm from South Jersey, and my daughter said I have to say water, not water. So I'm going to say water. Everything is water-based, or water if you want to go there. There's napkins. Don't worry about spills. Everything is non-toxic. Okay. So what I'd like you to do is you're going to add some water to the paint palettes, the water wells. You're going to get a wet brush, and you're going to put some kind of mark or blob on the paper to get started. It doesn't matter what colors you choose. Same thing online. Just make a blob or a mark on the paper. And this is just to get you started. The rest will be up to you. After you have your blob or mark of color on the paper, there's some squirt bottles. You also have your wet brushes and cups of water. I do also have a spray bottle that we can pass around if anyone wants to use it. But after you have the color on there, just drip some water on it and then play around and see what happens with the color as you tilt the page. You can add more color. You can add more water. Again, there's no right or wrong. that one has more viscosity. There's a few different paint palettes. If you find that the one that you are using doesn't have a good thickness, let's see, how are you with this one, Roberta? Are you okay? Yeah. Okay. The ones that have the 12 colors have a little bit of a darker, thicker viscosity, so feel free to share with your neighbor if they have one. But just play around with the color, see what happens when you add a lot of water. And then after you get started with your drips, I encourage you to turn the paper around in very different ways. Don't keep looking at it from the same angle. Shift your perspective, and then just play. What happens when you flick a little bit of color on there? What happens when you drop a color into a pool of water that already has some color and watching it blend? Just let yourself play. I'm going to put on some meditation music, and I will be here with you, just holding the space. If people have questions, it's okay to ask questions. And let me see what our time is. It's 12:14, so let's spend about 30 minutes doing this together. Because I know some people need to leave to be somewhere at 1 o'clock. So then that way you'll have transition time, right? Because we also want to be mindful of not rushing to get everywhere all the time. I don't know if you experience this, but sometimes working here, I feel like there's a lot of invisible fires that we're always rushing to put out. Be mindful of that. Give yourself time and transition time. If anybody needs a supply and you can't reach it, let me know and I will get it for you, such as more napkins or paper towels or fresh water. You can also make more than one painting. There's lots of paper on the table. Sure you're breathing. So if you find yourself getting stuck in doing your noticing and allowing, and one of the things that you're noticing is you're controlling your brush a lot, I encourage you to try it with your non-dominant hand and notice and allow that experience. As you continue, you may notice that what you're creating looks like something or reminds you of something. That's okay for that to happen. That's what we do as humans. We try to make sense of what we're looking at, very much like when we see shapes of animals or people's faces in the clouds. Just notice. I say that as I'm making intestines right now. Where are they? I'll turn it around and it'll be something else. The beauty of visual art is picture tells 1,000 stories. It doesn't have to be one way. It can be very freeing and open. I'm observing in the present moment just that letting go and letting yourself play, whether it's using the opposite end of a paintbrush or dabbing your fingers into the or onto the paper, using the paper towel or napkin to blot or create texture. Remember, there's no right or wrong. You're experimenting and playing, noticing and allowing. As you continue to experiment, you can notice your breathing, how your breathing is when you are using long strokes versus short strokes. If you find yourself holding your breath when laying, whenever you get lost, just bring it back to your breath. If you haven't already had a chance to explore, there's also water-based crayons and water-based pencils on the table that you can use along with the paint, in the paint. You can dip them in water, you can draw and scribble and put a wet paintbrush on top of it. You can mix things together. It's not something you have to do, but if it's something you'd like to try, you're more than welcome. just about 5 more minutes creating time. You can use that time to continue. If you feel like it's a good place for you in the present moment to take a pause, what I would recommend is stepping away from the image, maybe putting it on the floor, looking at it from a different perspective, giving yourself some reflective distance, but continue to engage in that noticing and allowing, looking at it from different directions. Having that open curiosity. And in a few minutes, when we close our creating, noticing time, I'm just going to read something very, very short. And then people who need to leave can leave. I'll be here staying afterwards for a little bit if people want to talk or exchange email, talk more about pain meditation. I do this all the time, so if you want to do it again, do it again. Usually have it downstairs on the 2nd floor in the art studio, which is a little smaller. It can only take about 8 or less people. But do give yourself that chance for some reflective distance if it feels like at this moment it's a good time to pause. Remember to keep breathing, even as we're starting to transition a little bit. You can still stay very grounded and in the present moment. I'm going to read something to you from my favorite little book called The Pocket Pema. Pema Chodron is a Buddhist nun. She wasn't always a Buddhist nun. She actually went through a lot of traumatic things in her life before getting into mindfulness and meditation, and she has a lot of wisdom in this little book. You can keep creating, or if you feel like you've come to a pause, you can just sit back and relax, close your eyes if it feels safe to do so. I'm just going to read you a little excerpt that I think connects with our focus of noticing and allowing today, the intention. It's called Now is the Time. We're always in some kind of mood. It might be sadness, it might be anger, it might be not much of anything, just kind of a blur, or it might be humor or contentment. In any case, whatever it is, that's the path. When something hurts in life, we don't usually think of it as our path or as a source of wisdom. In fact, we think that the reason we're on the path is to get rid of that feeling. In this way, we naively cultivate a subtle aggression against ourselves. However, the fact is that anyone who has used the moments, days, and years of their life to become wiser, kinder, and more at home in the world has learned from what's happening right now. We can aspire to be kind right in the moment, to relax and open our heart and mind to what is in front of us right in the moment. Now is the time. If there's any possibility for enlightenment, it's right now, not at some time in the future. I'm so thankful that you came here today. I have a lot of gratitude. I hope you hold on to that gratitude for yourself and recognize that you gave yourself time to be in the present moment, to try something different, to experiment, to play, maybe have fun. Maybe connect with a part of yourself that you're like, oh, why have I been pushing this away? It's right here. It never left me. So when we open up to those present moment experiences, so many possibilities can come forward. So if you want to stay and talk a little bit before we end exactly at 1, we can. If you need to go, I know some people have class at 1 or might have 1 o'clock meetings. You're more than welcome to take the time that you need to kind of take that breath, thank yourself for the experience, and mindfully, not out of your mind, but mindfully go to that next transition that you have today. And see how there's other places in your life where you can employ that notice and allow. It really kind of takes the pressure off of having to force it into a category of that binary right, wrong, good, bad, right? So allow yourself notice and allow. And if you really enjoyed playing with art materials, maybe there's that part of you, that creativity you've been squishing a little bit, right? Get yourself some supplies. Let yourself doodle. You know doodling is good for the brain, right? We have research here happening at Drexel that's proving that. Prefrontal cortex, more blood flow, blah, blah, blah. It's all happening here. So you're allowed to doodle. I even encourage my students to doodle in class. Not that I'm signaling anything over here. But doodling is good. It helps us connect with the present moment as well. So thank you for coming here and trying this today. Like I said, if you need to transition out, do what you need to do to go ahead and do that. If anyone had any observations or things that they wanted to share, we can do that. Okay. Yeah, thank you. I'm going to turn this music off. Yeah, that's a really great question. If you have your pieces and they're really wet and you cannot take them with you right now, we could probably just stick them on the top of that shelf, like the top shelves. I don't think anyone's going to come in here and touch them. And actually, I don't think anything else is booked today.
I don't think so.
So I don't think anyone's going to come in here like when you need to come in and get it. So feel free to use the shelves to let things dry. Yeah, thanks for coming. I hope you have a great class. I hope that you can go to that class feeling refreshed now.
Yeah, I feel a little more like grounded.
Yeah, that's cool. It's good that you got to do the art to do that. You really embraced your shawl with those colors.
Yes.
And I was noticing this with blue.
Oh, I didn't even know.
Yeah, well, I'm sitting here just like making observations, like present moment observations.
I just like to calm down.
I was like,
I
I
was done.
So
all
here's
just
the
this
here's the
moment.
thing. That's a great thing to notice is that you're